Good evening and welcome to the public meeting of the City School District of Albany Board of Education. I would like to entertain a motion to enter executive session for the purpose of discussing matters pertaining to collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law, matters relating to the employment of a particular person, and the proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property. Do I have a motion? Mr. El-Manyawi gets the honor of the first motion. Second by Ms. Mann. All in favor? That is unanimous. We are in exec. Good evening. My name is Ann Savage, and I am the president of the City School District of Albany Board of Education. On behalf of the board, I welcome you to our web-based meeting. We are so pleased that many people have been joining us virtually since we began with this format, and we hope that will continue. If you need to let a friend know how to connect, they can find instructions at albanyschools.org/BoE. Also, our meetings are always recorded and the audio files are uploaded a few days after the meeting on our Board Docs platform, so people who can't listen right now can hear the meeting at their convenience. Meeting by web is part of our effort to ensure that our meetings remain accessible to the public while also protecting the health of our community and doing our part to reduce transmission of COVID-19. Normally by law, we meet in person, but as a result of Governor Cuomo's Executive Order 202.1, we may now legally meet by video conference, and we plan to do that until further notice. For any members of the public joining from home, we will show the relevant slides and documents in the virtual meeting screen, and you can also access them via albanyschools.org/BoE. We invite those of you who choose to join us as we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and I ask that people who are part of the meeting turn your microphone on so it's not the Ann and Huida show on the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In addition to the Pledge of Allegiance, we always focus our meeting by restating the mission of the City School District of Albany, which is to work in partnership with our diverse community to engage every learner in a robust educational program designed to provide the knowledge and skills necessary for success. Superintendent Adams, do you have a report for us?
Yes, I do. Thank you so very much, Madam President and members of the board. Today marked the final day of the 2019-2020 school year. But just like every school year, however, we are not really finished until we celebrate our graduates. Commencement exercises for the Albany High School class of 2020 will take place on Saturday, June 27th and Sunday, June 28th. Following Governor Cuomo's executive order last week that allows outdoor graduations of no more than 150 people, we are planning 2 full days of excitement for our graduates at the Albany High Athletic Field. We will honor our graduates in groups of 40. Each graduate has the opportunity to invite 2 guests to join them for the ceremony. We will have, of course, practice all appropriate social distancing protocols, and all present will be required to wear a mask. Our commencement activities will begin on the morning of Saturday, June 27th with a virtual ceremony, and we will post that to our website and share it via Albany High's social media channels. The in-person presentation of diplomas on the athletic field will follow throughout the day, Saturday, and on Sunday. Seniors and their families should watch for more information from the high school with specific times for each in-person ceremony. We are looking forward to giving our seniors an enthusiastic send-off at Albany High next weekend. And as we come to the end of this very unique and often challenging school year, I would like to take a few moments to say thank you. Thank you to the Board of Education and all the leadership and support that you have provided throughout the COVID crisis. Thank you to all of our administrators, faculty, and support staff who pulled together to help our students and families, as well as each other. To everyone within our organization, thank you for your willingness to change directions at almost a moment's notice when we were forced to close our buildings in March. We pulled together to completely rethink the way we do business, from instruction to food service to technology to maintenance and operations. Your daily messages to students, school and district level communications, read-alongs, videos, parades, and reverse parades. Who even knew what a reverse parade was before now? Virtual promotion ceremonies, and all of the other out-of-the-box ideas help keep our students connected to school. Who would ever forget the masked dancer, the virtual field days, the beautiful virtual rendition of Don't Stop Believing, and the insightful perspectives in online learning? Almost every aspect of our professional lives changed during this pandemic, and I am grateful for the way in which we responded. No matter how we move forward under the precautions that are still so necessary due to this disease, we know that we will never be the same. The times we are experiencing will be the subject of history, economics, and social lessons for generations to come. The work that we are doing every day is groundbreaking, and it will continue to be. Out of necessity, yes. But this crisis has provided us with the opportunity to think about all the aspects of our work differently. It has allowed us to examine how we can take advantage of technology and be more flexible in meeting the needs of every student. Nothing will ever take the place and take the need away and the value of the personal connections that are so vital to the work we do. However, the creativity that our teachers, our support staff, and our administrators have displayed in sustaining this work remotely has been exemplary. And that is not easy, and you have been more than up to the task. I would also like to thank our students and families. The pandemic has stressed all of us in every aspect of our daily lives. From an educational perspective, it took away the reassuring custom of the daily physical gathering at school and the comfort that came with that. Suddenly, in its place, we had a solitary and sometimes isolated experience. Aside from the serious health concerns of COVID-19, this may have been the biggest challenge of all. Our students and families faced it with courage and resilience, and I am grateful for that strength. I would like to express my thanks to the community partners as well. Whether it was organizing a team of volunteers to support our meal distribution efforts, or donating thousands of bags to help us deliver Chromebooks and return materials to our students, our community was there in our time of need, as it always is. I would like to thank all of the nearly 11,000 Albany residents who returned ballots in this year's very different budget vote and board election. I am thankful for the record-setting participation and the overwhelming support. We are so very appreciative of the tremendous support of our community. We do not take that support lightly, and it is a direct indication of the confidence placed in our school district to ensure that we are adjusting our program and the delivery of instruction to support the needs of our students and families. These last few months have not been what any of us had planned for. They have challenged us and offered us new opportunities every single day. Together, we have responded to the best of our ability and in the best interest of our students. I can think of no better example of what that means to be all in for Albany. And for that, I am grateful beyond measure to all of you. Finally, I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge the collective efforts of our district's leadership team. Each division has been critical in the success of our transition to our online platform, and now in the process of reopening in the fall of 2020. I begin with our support team in the superintendent's office. Paula Tibbetts, secretary to the superintendent, Tanya BoE, Board of Education district clerk, Kala Kufta, administrative secretary of elementary division, and Brittany Pierce, administrative secretary for secondary division. These ladies are the backbone to the amazing work that you are about to hear about. I extend accolades to the instruction unit comprised of Dr. Wilson Turner, Ms. Lori McKenna, and Mrs. Karen Bechtel. Their leadership at the school level and related department levels were to make sure that all state and local guidelines were adhered to regarding the leadership of our buildings and departments to ensure that the resources were allocated and utilized in the best interest of our students. Their leadership was unmatched through weekly academic check-ins, daily updates to keep our administrators abreast of the many requirements which they were required to meet. They have been instrumental beyond the walls of the school building in connecting with various families who needed additional wraparound support and connections to many services. Mrs. Bechtel was instrumental in working with the instructional supervisors, for without their commitment to professional development and ongoing support to our coaches, the teachers, we would not have been able to sustain the delivery of quality instruction and resource materials sent directly to our families via mail or pickup at our food distribution sites. Many times, our technology is only visible when things go wrong. In the City School District of Albany, Mr. Kent Baker has led our Assessment, Accountability, and Technology Innovations Division in a manner that put them in the spotlight when things are going right. Under his leadership, we have distributed over 3,600 Chromebooks to students who needed devices and over 200 hotspots to households where there was no internet support. His division has provided professional development both instructionally and technologically while maintaining a help desk that responds to nearly 7,000 tickets for assistance. He has also ensured that our board meetings, hearings, town hall meetings, budget votes were handled in an extremely professional manner. Kudos for bringing technology into the light, Mr. Baker. I also acknowledge Ms. Leffler, who is our grants director, who has been on the job with securing grant opportunities during the COVID-19 crisis. Through her work, we have been able to fund summer school and provide learning opportunities which otherwise would have negatively impacted our budget. Her role is even more critical as we move forward with a limited budget. The grants we secure will provide opportunities for our students where funding is scarce. During this time, we've also had to address many concerns which impacted the well-being of our employees. Mr. Petrin, our Human Resources Administrator, has worked closely with our legal team to address these matters through labor management, civil service, and partnering with each division leader to ensure that the appropriate supports were made available for our teachers, support staff, and administrators. To our newest member of Cabinet, Ms. Kimberly Roaring, Deputy Superintendent of Business and Finance, I express my sincere appreciation for accepting the monumental task of reorganizing our Business and Finance Division by restructuring the practices and processes in all areas under her supervision during a single year. Her commitment and attention to detail in the areas of payroll and accounting, purchasing, facility management, food service, and maintenance and operation has been a heavy lift. However, the revamping of this entire division has put our system in a better place structurally with regard to the accountability needed to ensure the organization operates in a fiscally sound manner. Last but not least, the face behind the district, which makes us visible in our community at large, Mr. Ron Lesko and the entire Communication and Operations Division. From every daily update, video, perspective and online learning, website story, Facebook post, Twitter, Instagram, flyer, mailer, postcard, SNN, bus shelter advertisement, and more, the time and attention to ensure that our district is informing our public, engaging our families, and representing us for whom we really are is outstanding. I thank you all so very much and appreciate your dedication to the excellence demonstrated in our district. Yet another example of how we are all in for Albany. Thank you, and this concludes the superintendent's report.
So Mrs. Adams, thank you very much for that report and for all the beautiful remarks about the fine people we have working in the cabinet. We so appreciate all of the work that you do, and I hope that you feel that appreciation I know that at the beginning of the year, academic year, we usually say some remarks each, and I'm sure that we will have good commentary on the cabinet, but we're going to save those for our opening remarks of the next fiscal year, which happens July 9th. We have one more board meeting of this fiscal year. We do want to also take a minute to thank you, Superintendent Adams, for your leadership throughout the district over all of the areas that you mentioned, and that we recognize that you and your staff have done truly tremendous work in developing brand new ways of doing almost everything we do in the district over the course of not a year, but just a few months. So with that, I would like to turn our attention now to public comment. This is the time of the meeting when we welcome people to provide comment on our decisions. We always welcome input from the community. When we meet in person, we set aside this time and people come in person and speak to us for up to 3 minutes on the topic of their choice. Of course, that's not possible since we're meeting virtually. So for the virtual meetings, we've been accepting comments by email to boe@albany.k12.ny.us, by phone to our dedicated voicemail line at 518-475-6016, or by regular mail, which you can send to 1 Academy Park, Albany, New York, 12207. Our contact information is also available on the district website at albanyschools.org/BoE. There were no voicemails received on the voicemail line by 4 p.m. today. We did receive 2 emails by 4, and Dr. Tatur will read them now.
Thank you, Madam President. Our first letter comes to us from Sahadia Pierre. Dear distinguished members of the CSDA School Board, greetings. My name is Sahadia Pierre, and I'm presently a behavior specialist in our district. Several of my colleagues have written letters to express the devastating effects that may result in the near future due to a little less than half of us not being present during the next school year, provide our much needed service to our students, their families, and our colleagues. As behavior specialists, we first and foremost serve our children and those who need us most, not only through the use of data to make informed decisions based on their interests, strengths, and needs, but through the implementation of trauma-informed practices, research-based coping skills, as well as helping to connect families with community-based partners that can aid in meeting their needs, so they can thrive and succeed, just to name a few. Although some of us may not be recognized for the amount of work and care we put forth for our children and families, we do all that we do to help our children gain and obtain the support they need in order to be the best they can be as students, as people, and as responsible citizens in our school communities and beyond. We also provide support to teachers and faculty on a collaborative front to hone in on the research-based interventions and strategies our students need most, and how we can together work towards reaching this common goal. We strive to be a dependable resource to the educators, auxiliary staff, lunch aides, and administrators in communicating best practices for our students that are most at risk. In addition, we are always there to lend a helping hand to support our colleagues when they experience the joy of success with their children, sadness and or frustration when they are doing their best, but may not readily see the results of their actions, and we serve as the ever-hopeful cheerleader who encourages them to persevere through the implementation process, come what may. I say all of this in a collaborative effort with my colleagues and in the best interests of our children, their families, and district, but ask you to reconsider the decision made to lessen the amount of behavior specialists throughout the district. We would not want to place ourselves in a position where we will regret it when we witness the heart-wrenching effects this decision will have on our children, who will grow up to be young adults in which we have not thoroughly equipped to ever meet the continuous challenges of adulthood in the future. Thank you for your consideration concerning this matter. Yours in partnership, Sahadia Pierre. Next letter comes to us from Christian Barnes. I'm thrilled that the school budget passed, and by an incredible margin. This was a difficult budget that included some cuts to student activities. I'm writing in the hopes that you can give me information about the possibility of raising funds to restore freshman sports. Can you provide information about costs to run freshman sports? how many students will be impacted, and if this is a possibility. Thank you for your hard work. Kristen Bonds. Those are the two letters for today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chatur. To members of the public, we really appreciate every public comment. We learn so much from our community members. If by some chance we missed either your voicemail or email, we deeply apologize and would appreciate your letting us know. Again, our contact information is at albanyschools.org/BoE. Any comments received after 4 o'clock today will be read into the record at our next board meeting. That brings us to the part of our agenda we call routine consent. During this portion of the meeting, we approve routine matters for the district. These include things like contracts, field trips, personnel matters, and the like. Each board member reviews each item carefully, but we vote on them as a group with no discussion. That allows us to use our meeting time more efficiently. Nonetheless, each board member has the option to set aside any routine consent item in order to require a separate discussion and a separate vote on that item. Can I get a motion to adopt the routine consent agenda? Ms. Mann, may I have a second? Dr. Chatur, are there any set-asides? Seeing none, all in favor of adopting the routine consent agenda in its entirety? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Now I just need to find my agenda, which I lost in another tab. That brings us to a very important and very new topic, the School Building Facility Naming Committee. Mrs. Adams, did you want to start this off or do you want me to? How do you want to begin here?
I think you can start, Madam President.
Okay, thank you very much. Now I just want to make sure that I have my thoughts together so that I don't miss any of the things that I wanted to say. Our district has been involved in a conversation for a long time about the naming of our schools. This has come up many times. It's come up and it's come down. We pick it up and we think, is this the time to attend to this or is this not the time to attend to this? But it's become clear over the last few weeks as we as a country and as a city are dealing with the important historical problems in our country and our community around racial justice and the way African Americans are treated by law enforcement predominantly, but also in schools, that we need to attend to the work that we need to do. And that includes focusing on the names of our school buildings. We also, as a board, are committed to an open and transparent process. And we think that what part of our role is to do that in a way that's truly educational and that helps our community make this decision as a group, and that it does so in a procedural and proper way. For that reason, the board has been working with the superintendent on developing a school renaming policy committee that will develop a policy that will structure the process for renaming schools. And so tonight, we're going to discuss, but not act on the development of that actual committee. That is consistent with our normal process because we like to discuss something one meeting and then act on it the next time to allow members of the community to provide feedback on our actions. However, we do fully anticipate that we will act in 2 weeks on this committee. And for that to happen, we need the committee to get a good running head start. And so for that reason, we intend to appoint tonight Michael Aaron Poindexter to be the chair of the committee so that he can get that committee off the ground. So technically he'll be the chair of a committee that doesn't exist for a couple of weeks, but he will be the committee chair as the committee goes forward. So that is the 2 items that are before us, a discussion of the resolution to create the committee. This is also sort of an exciting thing for me because we'll be using a new process we developed in policy 2260.2, which is a board advisory committee process. And this is the very first committee that will be being developed under that process. And that is the discussion item. And then we will have an action item to appoint Mr. Poindexter to that chairmanship of that committee. Mrs. Adams, did you want to add anything else in introduction?
Yes, I would like to say that number one, I think along the lines of when the board moved forward with an equity policy to truly establish how it is that we do business and what we believe in and the opportunities that we want for our children. It is extremely important that this particular committee operate very intentionally and purposefully with the history of our city in mind and with what it means to our children to be a part of this. Because years from now, they'll look back and it would be real time to know that these are the things we're talking about: social justice, we're talking about equity, we're talking about where we stand in our society and how we can advocate for ourselves and make change, and for our students to be able to be a part of that real time and then understand the impact of their voice and making them a part of this process. While I know that we will have adult leadership, how we engage our students in this process will be critical. We have looked at student voice throughout this past year. We've talked about what that means with our students. Our students have had an opportunity to be a part of that, but now taking it one step further so that they can actualize equity through these things. I think this is one of the most courageous steps that our board can take. And I am thrilled to be a part of it. And I think that under the leadership of Mr. Poindexter, that it will be well on its way. So thank you so very much.
Board colleagues, any commentary, questions, points of discussion? Ms. Wilson.
Thank you so much, and sorry about the delay. I think more so, rather than what we individually think about this, I feel like we are in a very right moment to address this, and I think Superintendent and Cabinet for acting so swiftly and more or less in alignment with what I think the shift is across the world. And very much so importantly, I think what we've again had the situation of the pandemic reveal is people want to understand where the nexus of the board work is. And this is very much our work. So I'm very proud that we're doing this at this time, and we're going to implement policy change and, basically take the words outside of the buzzword usage and have a real life application for them. So without saying too much, I just want to just affirm that in that moment too.
Ms. Smith?
Actually, Mr. Elmanyawi can go ahead if you don't mind.
Thank you. I just wanted to commend the superintendent and cabinet. I think Mr. Poindexter is an excellent chair for this committee, and I'm honestly very excited to see what they come up with. And also very happy that the community is going to be involved in these decisions. So thank you for getting this started.
Ms. Smith?
Yes, thank you. I just want to say I echo everything that's been said, and I'm very proud that we're able to make this move at this time. And I think this is a great committee. I think the leadership is great. I think the timing is right. And as Ms. Savage said, President Savage said, I just wanted to also express that on some level, very emotional for me as a person who grew up in a little town called Stanton, Virginia, and went to Robert E. Lee High School, and had all of these, Confederate, statutes and names of buildings and everything around me. And I am pleased that my high school renamed my high school really in the last 5 years. I was delighted that that happened. And what I wanted to express about that is this: I did not purchase my high school letterman jacket because it had General Robert E. Lee on the back. And we were also called the Fighting Leemen. And it was terrible because I lettered in sports, and I was also in music, and I had, all these things that I wanted to post on my jacket, and I was ashamed to wear it. I have a high school ring. Again, the general is on there, and you really won't see me wearing it. It's just sitting in my jewelry box. So I wanted to just say how important I think this move is. I know that it's more than symbolic. This is an opportunity for, again, to reinforce to our youngsters that we want them to be who they are. We want them to be proud of who they are. They have some deep roots in this country and in the world. And we want to make sure that they know that they come from a line of great contributors and legends. And we want them to own that, and that their future, their lives do matter. Their decisions that they make about their lives and those around them, it matters. And I am also pleased to say that I know that we will improve upon the great background, historical, educational background, the knowledge that youngsters need to know. As many of you also could imagine, growing up in the South and hearing about slavery, and yet I wasn't a slave. My family members weren't slaves. I mean, I would have actually preferred the word captive, but I really had no connection to that. That wasn't my Black identity, my African American identity, and it was always very confusing because I felt as if I was treated as I was one of those other people, but I really wasn't. So who am I? And we don't want our kids to grow up questioning themselves or feeling that they are less than anyone else. So I am delighted for this move. I think it is definitely aligns with our equity policy and the vision that this school district and the board has for our community. So I'm grateful for the opportunity for the input and for us to do something different here. Thank you. Sorry to be long-winded. Thank you.
Not at all. Excellent, excellent remarks, and we appreciate them. Dr. Chatur, sorry.
I'm so honored that we're doing this. So glad that we're finally doing this. I could echo all my colleagues' statements and what Mrs. Adams said. Having not been born in this country, I still came from a country that was under somebody else's rule, and so there is an aspect of slavery all around the world, and it manifests itself in different forms. And what we need to teach our kids is to respect humanity first, and we need to teach them to do the right things and do the. So I'm very glad that we started with the equity policy. We are moving in the next direction with the school naming committee. And there's more things that we need to do, but these are the first steps. And I'm sure that under Mr. Poindexter's guidance, this committee is going to do great things. So I'm glad that I get to be a part of this historic moment.
Ms. Krejci.
I think this is really a good time to do this, and it's important that we do it. The thing about our current Schuyler Achievement Academy is I think it's the oldest continually operating school building in the city. It's been around since the 19th century, and it's been beautifully restored. But unfortunately, this isn't a name that's been with the school for a lifetime. I don't know if people that haven't lived in Albany a long time know, but until maybe between 15 and 20 years ago, our elementary schools had numbers instead of names. This is only a recently added name. It's sad to me to think about people in the 21st century deciding to give this school this name. It's hard to understand that, but it's a change that really people have been talking about for a while. This is something that I know an opinion columnist wrote about a few years ago, saying that maybe this name just isn't the message that we'd like to send to our kids. So, and of course, there's work involved in renaming the school, whether it's the time of people sitting on a committee, there's work, a lot of administrative work and redoing everything to do with the name, but it's time. It's time to do this for our kids. It's time to do this for our community and show school names are an opportunity to show whom we honor and to show what we care about. So this is a really good opportunity to show people and to show our students what's important to us and what we care about.
So I suspect that we don't have many folks listening in from home tonight. It is a beautiful summer night out there, and I suspect people have other things to do, but maybe people will listen in the future. And I just want to make sure that we're clear that the very first thing that we're doing tonight is discussing a committee that will set the policy that will guide the future work of actual renaming. So tonight, we're just talking about the renaming policy committee. We expect that work to be completed by the end of the summer. And then each school that's impacted by this decision-making process will have a school-based committee that will be composed predominantly of people from that community who will be working together. Mr. Poindexter has the nicely situated position of being able to likely do that transition right through to the Schuyler Achievement Academy. Before we actually vote, I did want to let Ms. Ms. Mann vote because she is the last board member who has not spoken. And Ms. Mann, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, it took me forever to get off mute here. But, you know, I just want to piggyback on what my board colleagues have already, remarked on. Removing, renaming our schools, developing a renaming committee for our school buildings is essential, and it doesn't solve all the problems that we have experienced very recently and then over the course of certainly my lifetime. But I do believe it's a very small part of healing the wounds in our community. And so, I really support the development of this committee and looking forward to voting in a positive manner on it. So thank you.
I'm going to add one more thing before we vote. You'll all notice that on the resolution that we are discussing but not voting on tonight, there is a big blank spot. It says Michael Aaron Poindexter chair, and then it says the rest of the committee is going to come. So when we meet in 2 weeks, we anticipate that Mr. Poindexter will have gathered a representative committee that will have committed to serve. I know board members have already provided some suggested folks that we know that are strong, either strong advocates for their community or strongly connected to Albany history for him to start with. I know he has deep connections to the community of his own. And in addition, I want to make sure that folks out in the community are aware that if they would like to submit themselves as a suggestion, they can do that as long as they do it quickly, because again, we are trying to fast track this work so that we'll be in a position to make sure that we can do the work at the school level in the fall. So if you are interested, you would just send an email to boe@albany.k12.ny.us and do that in the next couple of days. I think that we put in the remarks that are going out, let's see, June 24th as the deadline, because that would still be very tight for Mr. Poindexter to really make sure he has a comprehensive committee to work with. And so we will mostly be looking those over and forwarding them to Mr. Poindexter. Any other discussion? Otherwise, I'm going to take a motion to adopt the resolution that's described on the action item, which is that it is hereby resolved that the Board of Education in the City School District of Albany anticipates creating a school naming policy advisory committee consistent with policy 2260.2 on June 29, 2020, and that we will appoint Michael Aaron Poindexter chair of that committee once created. Do I have a motion? Ms. Smith, seconded by Ms. Wilson. All in favor? That is unanimous. And I happen to see Mr. Poindexter is here. We're so happy to have you here and wondered if you would like to say a few words.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me well? Great. Thank you to Superintendent Adams and President Savage and the entire board for this awesome opportunity. Yes, I am solo right now. There are no other committee members, but that will change very shortly. Thank you so much for all of your suggestions. I've been spending a lot of time researching other committee work for a school naming process that's going on throughout the country. And there are so many different examples and models out there. And so the goal and the work is to find what works best for Albany, utilizing stakeholders and parents and those who have direct impact on our students and our community that we serve. Student voice is extremely important. It's something that we talk a lot about at Schuyler Achievement Academy. Equally important is the models that we set before our students. And so again, I commend you, Superintendent Adams and the board, for modeling what changes. This is clearly a dark time in our country. It's a very revealing time in our country, but this is also an awesome time in our country. It's an opportunity for change. It's an opportunity to show our students and our community what matters most to us, and that's their success and the trajectory of their success, and what role we play in that success. And so again, thank you. I'm excited to get the work started. I will say it's a little bit of a daunting task hearing everyone's response tonight on the work and the expectations of the work, but I'm ready for the work. So again, thank you.
Thank you so much. It's really wonderful to have you on the team, and we're looking forward to seeing what you all can do. For colleagues, we're ready to move on. So the next item on the agenda is less dramatic, but no less important. It has to do with the funding of our reserve funds.
So at this time, we will have Ms. Roaring. She will give you a brief introduction, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Good evening, Board of Education. This evening is a resolution before you where we are asking you to consider the authorization for us to make deposits into several different reserves. I would note that the amounts shown here are amounts not to exceed. So these would be maximum dollars. They are not necessarily planned dollars. We're looking to make a deposit into the capital reserve up to $1 million. This would be to support the anticipated work from the results of our building condition survey that is due to SED this year. We're also looking to make a deposit into our workers' compensation reserve. We are in a climate where our workers' compensation insurance cost has gone up exponentially in 1 year. We anticipate that it will continue to climb. We are also realizing increased costs associated with those claims, and it's expected to exceed our budgeted numbers for next year. So we'd like to have a little bit of funds available to help offset those costs so there's no impact on program. And lastly, it's deposited into our unemployment reserve as a result of our necessary reductions in force. We will be experiencing some unemployment costs that were not fully anticipated, and this would give us an opportunity to support those expenditures without impacting program next year. We anticipate that there will be some savings as a result of COVID-19. We're still assessing what those total dollars will look like, but we are asking that you consider authorizing us to make deposits up to those amounts in those three reserves.
Board colleagues, any questions for Ms. Roaring? I guess the only question we probably should just get clear on is we absolutely obviously trust your professional judgment about whether to make these up to points, but could you just talk a little bit about the criteria you're going to use to define what amount to deposit?
So some of that will be predicated upon what the actual amount available is. That's why we have up to amounts there. We know we're going to need some funds at our workers' comp reserve, so that's probably our first priority. And also adding some funds to our capital reserve. I would say, should the funds be available, certainly we would attempt to make a significant deposit there. But we also know that we have those unemployment expenditures coming. So we want to make sure that we have the ability to do these things without impacting our children next year to the extent that we possibly can plan for that. So I would honestly tier them probably workers' comp is a top priority, capital reserve next, and then unemployment reserve. But again, that's totally dependent on what total funds are available when we get to that point of closing our books at the end of August with the auditors.
And as part of that, I guess I just want to ask a little bit more about the controller's indication that we are susceptible to fiscal stress and where that will weigh in your determination.
So we did receive that reading. One of there are two areas that we really want to focus on as we look at mitigating that. One of them is to hopefully have some additions to our unappropriated fund balance. So that was an area that we have significantly depleted over the last couple of years. Very purposefully, the board made those decisions to help support some of the capital projects, and we know that. But that was part of a trigger, quote unquote, that allowed us to be classified that way this year. The other one is the capital reserve. We had a nice healthy capital reserve that's helping us cover the local share of the May 2019 proposition, which included North Albany, Arbor Hill, and a number of our other buildings. But that withdrawal to support that project was also one of those things that said, oops, you have less in your savings now, so we're going to say that you may be susceptible to fiscal stress. All of these actions were very purposeful. They were methodical in how you approach them, and they were all, reasoned and appropriate actions, but because of those significant decreases in our savings, quote unquote, we did have that classification this year. We believe that putting funds back in the reserve, as well as hopefully adding to our unappropriated fund balance, will help stem that classification as we go into 2021.
Board colleagues, anybody else with a question for Ms. Roaring? I don't see any hands, so can we have a motion to, and I can't read the tiny print there, can we have a motion to resolve as described on the agenda, those three amounts not to exceed? Dr. Chatur has moved. Do we have a second? Ms. Wilson, all in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. So we will look forward to an update as we get closer to the end of the year and we know more to what we're able to do. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
And now, my favorite part of the agenda, I get to turn the microphone over to Dr. Chatur, who leads the policy committee.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Today we have action items. So we have 5 policies that require action. We discussed them at the last meeting. 3 of them actually are changes that were implemented because of when the district received an audit regarding the ESSA Title I funds. We were told that we need to describe it better in relation to the McKinney-Vento Act. And so the changes that were made were basically affecting policy 5151, which is the homeless children policy, the 4710, which is grading systems, and 8400, which is transportation, of which 5151 and 8400, it's actually the regulations that are changed. So now all of these policies cross-reference to the homeless policy to be in compliance with the McKinney-Vento Act. And so we discussed that last time. And today would be an action item. I think I'll go ahead with the other 2, and then we can have a motion to approve or discuss further all of them together. The next policy is 8635, which is the Information Security Breach and Notification Policy. Due to new regulations enacted by SCD in January of this year, the district had some policy needs that need to be addressed by July 1st of this year, in 2 weeks, basically. And so there were a lot of changes that happened to the policy, which related to both 8635 and the regulation attached to it being substantially modified. They're essentially new documents. But now this will be in compliance for, when it becomes enacted in July 1st. 1230 is public participation as board meetings. As you all know, we've been meeting online, and so public comment we've been receiving public comment by email and reading them on record. So we needed to set some guidelines for how we do this because we haven't done that, and people need to be put on the same scale as when they were coming in public to a public meeting. So basically this policy now explains that process and says that the 3-minute time limit would be applicable to all public comments, including these new formats, as well as if you send a comment by voicemail, that would be limited to 3 minutes as well. If you send any media messages, they will only be played if they include just the commentator speaking their own public comment. This is to ensure that there's privacy issues are all covered. May I have a motion to approve all 5 of them? Ms. Mann, Ms. Krejci, all in favor? Unanimously approved. Thank you, Madam President.
Excellent. That was the fastest policy of adoption of 5 policies in the history of mankind. Well done. That is the end of the policy portion of our agenda. For many years now, we have always front-loaded our agenda with our actions. The board does not anticipate taking any other actions later in the meeting. That doesn't mean it won't happen. Sometimes it does, but in general, we would not expect to take any further actions tonight as we move on now to the discussion portion of our agenda. The first discussion item is one that I know gives us all much relief and joy, the discussion of the 2020-2021 budget.
So good evening again, Madam President and members of the board. I just wanted to take an opportunity to give another shout out, kudos to Ms. Tanya BoE, who is our board clerk, and just give a note of congratulations for conducting such an outstanding process with the help of her co-chair, Paula Tibbetts. They did an outstanding job, but for her first year as a board clerk, to not have a traditional election process and have to adjust as many times as she did it with style and with grace. And I say thank you so very much for your flexibility, even at the last minute when executive orders were coming left and right, and looking at the policy and following up with our legal team. And I will take a moment to send out additional kudos to our legal team and say thank you to Jeff Honeywell, Paul Loy, and Chris. Thank you so very much. And Michael Godowski, who is our attorney with special ed. So we want to say thank you to all of you. Our legal team is amazing, and they have been instrumental in this process. And so we want to say thank you again, and primarily with Chris Honeywell with regard to this particular piece. So just getting to the statement of the canvass of the votes. Proposition 1, which was our budget, passed, and that was with 7,829 yes votes. Proposition 2, which was the purchase of the land near Delaware Community School, that proposition passed as well with 8,984 yes votes. For Board of Education candidates, our board member who was elected as a full term is Hassan El-Minyawi, and he won by, well, I don't have by, but he won with 4,599 votes. Our Albany Public Library trustees are Thomas McCarthy, who had 3,023 votes, and Bridget Pryor, who had 3,073 votes. This was certified by our board clerk, and I am submitting this to our board members tonight. And if there are any questions, we open the floor for questions or comments.
Ms. Wilson.
Thank you. And again, I want to echo your kudos to Tanya BoE, as well as everyone who contributed towards this process that was very different, but again, we still worked through it. My other question is really about when it came down to, and I don't know if this is totally divergent from any other year or if this is just par for the course and it was just complicated by the fact that we were absentee. But now I'm wearing my citizen hat, not my board hat, but many people asking either the library about our process or us about the library's process, and whether, whether that was par for the course and then we just always had that issue, or was it maybe further complicated by the absentee? Because anything we can do to come together and maybe share resources like e.g. Cross-reference each other on our websites, if that's allowed, because I know there's also, of course, the regulation aspect of things. So that's the only thing I want to highlight that I observed throughout this process. I mean, there's many things, but there's something I want to call attention to.
I'm just going to tag on to that because I hadn't thought to say that this tonight, but I think it's related, which is that this year, for the very, very first time, the district hosted candidates forums. In the past, that has always been done by the League of Women Voters and the NAACP, who were very gracious and provided moderators to us to support our hosted candidates forums. So it's just something I think for next year, we just need to anticipate that, because ever since we've been elected in May, this has been an ongoing challenge of figuring out how to do the candidates forums. When we were elected in November, it seemed to just sort of roll as part of the normal process, but with the May elections, it just seems to be very different. And as Tabitha said, the confusion with the library has always hosted their own forums. And so I think people look to that as, oh, that's the way you do it. And maybe that is now the way we're going to do it. But it's just something I think we need to remember to talk about in, February or March next year, so that we're more prepared for that. Anyone else with a comment on the process if there are any questions? I know I have one about sort of how the budget will be implemented, what happens next. So any other questions or commentary about the process to date? Okay, so now questions about, now that we have an adopted budget, does anybody have comments besides me? I can go last, about comments or questions about the implementation of the budget. So I have two questions. One is the big picture, one is small picture. The big picture one, which is the one I came in planning to ask, is do we have any insight from any source about whether there's going to be any information forthcoming about a look back period? We had the April 30th look back period, which came and went and with no ever anything. And now the next one ends in June, which is fast coming. Is there any information forthcoming on that?
The only information that we have that's forthcoming is that the governor is waiting to see what happens with funding from the federal government before he makes a decision about local government, if you will. We know that he does not, even in that look back period, he does not want to hurt education. We know that he doesn't want to hurt healthcare. There's certain things that he doesn't want to do. And so by delaying those decisions based on what federal funds come, it puts him in a better position to, if you want to say, do less harm. Because right now with where our budgets are, we are at least status quo for now, especially here in Albany, because of our budget passing, we can move forward with what we have put in place with regard to our budget. We do have, I think I'm going to kind of jump into Albany, if you don't mind. For us, holding off on that look back period can be very positive, because then we can look at what are those shared services that we need to do? How can we do things in the most fiscally responsible manner now? And then depending on what happens down the line, those adjustments may or may not involve people. And that's what we don't know, but we can at least put ourselves in a position now where it may not solely rest on the backs of people. We may have other areas that we might be able to look at. And that's just a high level bird's eye view possibility.
I understand, and that's about what I expected you would say. It's just very difficult to be at this point in the school year without really clear information about what we will have to spend. We hope that what we have in the budget right now will stay in the budget, but that is entirely dependent on the state aid not being reduced. So then my second question is actually sort of a two-part question, and it was really brought about by the letter we got in public comment, which was about whether there was an opportunity for outside the district to fundraise for freshman sports. And it reminded me that there was a similar question asked about third grade music in a letter a couple of weeks ago. And so I have two questions, and they are sort of related. One is, what are the regulatory restrictions around us accepting outsider funds for those extras? And what would it take for us to get an actual dollar figure to return those two specific things, third grade instrumental music and freshman sports, which are the two that I'm hearing the most about? And then slightly related, we got a whole bunch of letters from music people, teachers, parents, students saying, hey, wait a minute, you've said that the enrollment is going down, but we know the enrollment in the music program is going up. So can we really afford to lose these music teachers that we have reduced? And I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit about how and if we really can afford, because one of the worst things I think we can do to a kid is get them all geared up in elementary school and excited about being in band and orchestra, and then turn them into the middle school and then have there not really be enough teachers to do lessons or whatever. So sorry for the multi-part question, but there it is.
So we will divide that in two. And so to address the music component with regard to the unique scheduling and things like that, I'm going to ask Mrs. Bechtel to address that with regard to what was the process and what is the process that we're looking at, seeing that our numbers may be larger at the elementary level. And then what does that look like as students matriculate to the higher grades? And then with regard to the funding piece, we will shift over to Ms. Roaring to answer that component. So Mrs. Bechtel.
Good evening. Kate Wright and I spent quite a bit of time with the music schedule this spring, given the cuts that we had. We went through, we have all the projected enrollments from the elementary buildings into middle and from grade level to grade level. We know who is in the program and who we anticipate to move forward. Kate has a nice protocol to ensure who is indeed moving on. So we went through it. It was a very challenging exercise, but we are able to afford all of our students the instructional courses in music that they have anticipated having. And I feel very confident about that. As I said, we spent quite a bit of time going through that exercise, and I feel confident that we will be able to serve all the children.
And does that extend to lessons? I remember there was a thing a couple of years ago when the Equity Task Force came out about whether we had sufficient lessons, especially at Albany High, where some kids have private lessons at home and others don't, and providing lessons in school was an equitable inducing aspect of.
Yes, this does align with the task force work and the recommendations for a weekly lesson.
That is a big relief. Thank you very much for all of that detail, Mrs. Bechtel. I really appreciate it.
Ms. Roaring?
So I'm just going to clarify, make sure I know exactly what you're asking. I think the question was, are we able to receive, say, donations via some group, individual doing some fundraising to the district for a prescriptive purpose? The answer to that is yes. If someone chose or some organization chose to do fundraising, they are able to make a donation to the district, and they can be very prescriptive in how those funds can be used. And then it's our responsibility to make sure that we use those funds only for the parameters that have been outlined in their memo of donation that would accompany that check. It is something, if we're looking at something that might be salary related, we would certainly work with our attorneys to make sure we structure that in a way that made the most sense and was very clear in identifying that source of funds. But otherwise, yes, we can absolutely receive targeted donations.
And can you, I wouldn't expect you to have these numbers off the top of your head, but can you provide by email so that we can provide to Ms. Bonds and others who have asked this question, what the dollar figure would be that they would need to raise in order to provide freshman sports for this year and third grade instrumental music for this year?
Yes, we'll work on that.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Ms. Bill?
I just have a question of clarification around freshman sports, that if you're a freshman and you want to play sports, you can play. We just don't have a designated program. Is what I'm.
That's correct. They would be on the junior varsity team. They would be on junior varsity.
I just want to be specific around the language, because I want people to know that that's still, because I think people hear there's no freshman sports, they think their freshmen can't play sports. So I just want to clarify that.
I think that you're right, and I should be more careful, and I appreciate that clarification. But the one thing that is also true is that a couple of the sports are cut sports. So even though freshmen can try out, there is one less team, so fewer people will make the team.
Definitely.
In those sports. So, and I think that's primarily the concern of the parents I'm hearing talking about freshman sports. And again, maybe I should say freshman only sports teams. So anybody else questions about budget implementation? Mr. El-Minawi, thank you for waving. That was helpful.
And thank you for asking for the exact numbers on third grade music instrumental and sports. So just to clarify, if there's a donation that's set, whatever the number that Kimberly comes back with for third grade music, if somehow that number is met with donations and the donations are specifically outlined for third grade music instrumental classes, that's what it would go towards. That's correct? All right. I think a lot of people would like to know that.
I think, and I hate to broach this, but I don't want to leave the elephant in the room either. I think the board would have a very difficult question in front of us if one school were to raise money for their school to have third grade instrumental music. I think that is, the board would have to accept that donation, and I do not want to have that conversation now. please hear me. We do not have time and we are not prepared to have that conversation now. We have not done the homework to have that conversation now. But I also don't want members of the public to not realize that it would be a difficult and complex discussion for the board. We have history in this school district where a board many, many boards ago eliminated 3rd and 4th grade music, and individual schools continued to provide, maybe they only eliminated 3rd grade music. I can't remember anymore. This was a long time ago. But individual schools decided to provide that only at their school. And as a result, there was some substantial inequities in this district. And so I am not presupposing how the board would rule but decide on that topic, but I am making sure that members of the community hear that it would be a very vibrant conversation about whether we would accept a donation on behalf of the district to provide instrumental music at 3rd grade at one school and not at all of the other schools. Dr. Tutor, I saw you demuted.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we could do it through the Albany Friends of Music and the Albany Booster Club, which basically take care of programs on a district-wide level. Albany Booster Club more with the high school. So the freshman team would really, sports would come under the auspices of Booster Club. But I agree that it needs to be specifically stated during any fundraising that just because you're giving it doesn't mean it's not only for your school. You're giving it for the district.
Again, I really don't want to have that conversation tonight. I really think we want to just put it out there for now. We don't have an agenda item for this. We need to have a full conversation. And I have no idea if a donor would approach us with that idea anyway. I just want to have it in the ether, that I think it would be a vibrant conversation knowing the history here. And I think you're totally right. We do have these entities, the Albany Fund for Education and Albany Booster Club, that have served very important roles in our district. And we appreciate so much the work that they have done in support of our children over many, many years. And if they were to consider doing that, we would certainly welcome a conversation with them. Sorry to bring that complexity to it, but I just felt like it had to be said before we went on. Anyone else with budget conversation, question, comments? Okay. Then I think we're ready to move on to another meaty topic, which is the 2021 middle school configuration discussion. There will not be an action on this tonight, but it's a discussion about how we will enroll our middle schools next year, a discussion that's always complex, and we've gone through quite a few times over the last 5 or 6 years.
So thank you so very much, Madam President. At this time, I will turn the time over to Ms. Lori McKenna, the Assistant Superintendent for Secondary Instruction, to talk about, in the context of what we've been looking at with North Albany, the construction that's happening there, and as we're looking at a phased-in approach for that school with regard to enrollment, I will turn the time over to Ms. McKenna to give you some detailed information and then open it up for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Adams. Good evening, Board of Education, Superintendent Adams, Cabinet, and our virtual participants. Thank you for the opportunity to share our enrollment plan for Edmund J. O'Neill Middle School and North Albany Middle School for the 2021 school year. But before I review the plan, I just would like to review where we were last year around this same time as we discussed the phase-in of students at North Albany Middle School. So last year, if you recall, the Board of Education approved an alternate enrollment pattern at North Albany Middle School that would be temporary until our new permanent middle school configuration was in place for the 23-24 school year. And if you remember, under this plan, 6th grade students from North Albany and Schuyler Achievement Academy would attend North Albany Middle School for grades 6 through 8, and we would slowly phase in students under this model. However, as part of the budget process for 2021, we reviewed enrollment across all elementary and middle schools to determine where there were staffing efficiencies. And as part of that process, we determined that it would be possible to expedite the phase-in of students from O'Neill Middle School to North Albany Middle School for 6th grade. Students feeding into O'Neill, while also recognizing additional savings with staffing, which supported the budget deficit for the 2021 school year. And that was for full-time equivalent teachers between North Albany Middle School and Edmund O'Neill Middle School. This means that under this plan, that 5th grade students currently enrolled at Arbor Hill Elementary School, Schuyler Achievement Academy, and Sheridan Preparatory Academy will attend North Albany Middle School for grades 6 through 8. There are a couple of tables that you see on your screen that shows you the actual enrollment, projected enrollment for North Albany and O'Neill Middle School. So you can see on this first chart, this is the projected enrollment for 2021. We would have 143 6th grade students, 66 7th grade students, 2 self-contained special education classes with 15 students, 1 teacher, 1 teaching assistant, for a total enrollment of 239 students. At Edmund J. O'Neill Middle School, the enrollment for 2021 projected is 80 7th graders, which are our current 6th graders rolling up, and then our 160 8th graders. We also have 4 self-contained special education classrooms in that building. 2 are 12-1-1 classrooms. 1 is a 15-1-1 classroom, and the final one is a 6-1-3 classroom. I think it's important to note that while we are continuing to phase in the middle school students from O'Neill to North Albany, it's also important to know that we are doing so while construction is underway, and we're carefully monitoring the enrollment to ensure that the enrollment does not prohibit the construction to continue. So accelerating the transition of all 6th graders this year will not delay or slow down the capital project. It will still allow us to open up our third large middle school at North Albany in the fall of 2023 as planned. With that said, I will open it up to any questions that you may have.
Board colleagues, any questions for Ms. McKenna? Mr. Omanyawi.
Ms. McKenna, forgive my ignorance, but why do we have 143 6th graders at North Albany and 0 6th graders at O'Neill?
Because what we're doing is we're phasing out 6th grade at North Albany for the 2021 school year. And those students who typically feed into North Albany will now feed into grade 6 at North Albany.
And that would be 6th grade from O'Neill, because we are phasing them out
of O'Neill.
North
Okay.
Albany.
Yep.
Okay.
So students who currently attend Arbor Hill and Sheridan Preparatory Academy will now join the Schuyler Achievement Academy 5th graders into 6th graders into 6th grade at North Albany.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Ms. McKenna, if I just project forward one more year and think about what that North Albany enrollment is going to look like, the 7th grade becomes 8th grade, the 6th grade becomes 7th grade, and we enter another 140-ish. So that would be our current, but this year's 4th graders, who will by then be 6th graders. Will that fit and not cause us problems with the construction? Because that will also be
right. And so if you remember, we also share the space with Albany International Center for our English language learners that are new to the country. And we are looking at shifting that program and those students over to O'Neill Middle School, because in the 21-22 school year, O'Neill Middle School would only have 80 students, which would allow us to shift over, which has always been the plan.
Yes, and I want to clarify for the public as well as for my board colleagues that this is still the stopgap plan. As you mentioned, Ms. McKenna, we are still planning to have a full feeder committee process committee. Sorry, I'm waving at my family who's waving goodbye to me. As we have discussed many times, there will be a committee similar to what we did tonight for the naming committee that will be our board advisory committee on the feeder program. And that will impact the 2023 school year. And it could be radically different than what we're seeing here. This is still the stopgap. But before we can get to that, we need to do the enrollment study, which we're planning to do in the next couple months so that we have foundational information to make that decision to confirm that we can get away with 3 650-seat middle schools and don't need a 4th middle school, which would put a big wrench in all of these works. Ms. Wilson, I saw your hand up. I see Ms. McKenna has nodded. For those listening in by audio, there was nodding about Ms. Wilson.
Thank you. So I'm sorry, I stepped away and you may have addressed this, but in the event that a family from Schuyler or another school simply wants to attend another school, there's still that procedure in place that they could say.
Absolutely. We still have our open enrollment policy or practice that Dr. Wilson Turner oversees, and we would still have that in place as well.
Thank you.
How real is that as an opportunity for Myers and Hackett right now? Is there actually capacity for that?
It depends on the grade level. So for 6th grade at Myers Middle School, for example, the projected enrollment is low. I think fewer than 100 students right now. And so we absolutely have space at Myers Middle School to accept students who whose parents fill out the open enrollment form.
Okay, I understand. Any other questions about this topic? Otherwise, as is our normal practice, we will leave this conversation open for 2 weeks so that members of the community who listen into the board meeting or look at the board agenda can provide any additional feedback, and we will plan to act on this in 2 weeks on the 29th. Okay, moving on. This is a very meaty agenda tonight. The last topic is the discussion of the curriculum and academic program reviews for career and technical education and English as a new language. So, Mrs. Adams, are you going to start this or Mrs. Bechtel?
I will turn the time over to Mrs. Bechtel as she is ready to proceed. Thank you.
Good evening again, everyone. This is really one of my favorite presentations to give to the board. This curriculum review, we have two programs that we're going to look at tonight. One is for CTE and the other is ENL. These are really the last of the programs, the curriculum programs that we have in the cycle of review. And I do want to mention to the audience that the CTE particularly is a very comprehensive umbrella term for many, many courses, giving this review a different level of complexity than perhaps when we looked at K-12 math or K-12 science. So it was a really interesting process. Andrea Marquess and Nicole Lindemann, who led this charge, did such a beautiful job with it, and I'm really excited for them to give their presentation tonight. When they complete this, and we have a few questions, after that, I'll introduce the ENL folks. Andrea, Nicole? Yes.
Good evening. My name is Nicole Lindemann, and I'm the instructional supervisor for the school librarians, Family and Consumer Science 612, and Instructional Technology 612. I also work with New York State Assessments. I'm joined this evening with...
Good evening. I'm Andrea Marcus Clark, and I'm proud to be the principal of a Brooklyn Career and Technical Center for the past 5 years. I currently have, as part of my content-specific duties, supervision of career and technical education at Albany High School.
Please move to the next slide. Our presentation this evening will provide an update on the state of the curriculum for grades 6 through 8 CTE completed this year. As you can see from the list, many programs fall under the heading of career and technical education in the district. Some may wonder what CTE represents. It's an umbrella term for career and technical education. It introduces students to career opportunities and helps obtain technical skills and apply those skills. Please move to the next slide. Curriculum review cycle. Before I jump into the findings, I'd like to first describe the process of the review cycle. The district curriculum review plan provides the framework for the curriculum development, implementation, review, and evaluation in a 5-year cycle that includes all content areas. Year 1 of the cycle includes the review of all curricular documents by team members under the direction of the instructional supervisor or principal. We also research, analyze, and plan for the future. The team reviews the scope and sequence and/or curricular maps that outline unit overviews and pacing, learning standards, essential questions, content and skills, assessments, instructional strategies, and resources against the City School District of Albany's curriculum review rubric. The rubric addressed the following areas: alignment to standards, rigorous and relevant, high quality instruction, assessment quality, and high expectations for all. Please move to the next slide. The Commissioner's Regulations. Prior to 2017, the Commissioner's Regulations stated middle level students would have 1 unit of technology and 3/4 unit of family and consumer science offered between grades 5 and 8. However, in 2017, the Commissioner's Regulations were changed to say 1 3/4 units in career and technical education. Instruction can be delivered by CTE teachers, which provides flexibility for schools. While the flexibility was available, the district has continued to offer technology and facts at the middle level. The state created a curricular framework guidance document for districts to use as needed when developing curriculum for their schools using the CTE lens. We currently offer facts and technology in grades 7 and 8 in order to meet the required units. Certified technology teachers focus on New York State math, science, and technology standards, while family and consumer science followed the New York State standards. Computer class is offered as a non-mandated class in grades 6 through 8 when students have availability in their schedule. Please move to the next slide. Overview and findings. This year was the first opportunity for the 3 programs to review and assess the current status of their curriculum. Prior to this year, the middle school had a limited opportunity to write curriculum. We anticipated a low amount of written documents to review in Rubicon Atlas, the district's platform for managing curriculum. We finished the review process and found facts and computers were underdeveloped and technology was developing. We immediately started to capture the missing information and identified in the review during our professional development days and during common planning time. We discussed pacing, units at each level, and activities for each unit. Please move to the next slide. Recommendations. For facts and technology, we need more time to write curriculum. When writing the curriculum, we need to ensure equitable experiences for all students across the 4 middle schools. We need to develop more project-based engaging activities and attend professional development specific to the content and focus of our needs. Technology-specific courses need to review the computer science standards along with the current coding units. We'd also like to develop 3D printer activities for both 7th and 8th grade and have a clear understanding of how to integrate robotics in the middle level coding units. We would also like to further develop and define the computer-aided design for drawing and designing at each grade level. We wish to review and discuss the hand tools used when building and creating in the classroom. And we need to embed computer skills within the units. Please move to the next slide.
Good evening again. At Albany High School, our CTE pathways provide students with coursework that bridges academic concepts to career-related skills within specific career clusters. Students participate in work-based learning opportunities, both in-house and at business establishments in the community. Students practice work-related soft skills, which we know to be essential in the workplace. Students who successfully complete all requirements receive a Regents Diploma and a career and technical endorsement. A gold CTE seal is placed on the diploma and the graduate is provided with an orange and white cord. CTE pathways provide a focus on specific career knowledge and skills leading to continuing study in a post-secondary program and/or direct employment. Students can earn course credit or advanced standing as part of an articulation agreement with associated colleges. Most importantly, they have accrued the mandatory hours to sit for industry-based certifications or licenses right out of high school. Next slide, please. At Albany High, we offer 8 New York State approved CTE pathways that allow students to focus on a sequence of courses in a specified career pathway. They are automotive technologies, business accounting, business administrative professional, construction technologies, cosmetology, culinary arts, health science, better known as our certified nursing associate, and pre-engineering. We also anticipate having an additional 3 approved pathways in the areas of barbering, human services, and nutrition, health, and wellness for the 2021 school year. Next slide, please. As you can see, we range from underdeveloped all the way to well-developed. We found that our automotive, barbering, cosmetology, culinary arts, and health science pathways were rated to be within the underdeveloped range. Our business accounting, business administrative professional, and construction teachers rated themselves within the developing range, while our current family and consumer science courses and pre-engineering pathway curriculum were found to be well-developed. We understand that we still have work to do in the development of our curriculum across our pathways. Now, next slide, please. To date, CTE curriculum writing funding was financed solely with Perkins Grant money, which impacted the amount of time teachers were provided to do this work. After reviewing the high school CTE curriculum writing progress, there is a noticeable variation of progress among pathways. We must ensure that our curriculum is aligned to standards and that we document our high-quality instruction within the Rubicon pathway platform. Next slide, please. Now for our curriculum development needs. The CTE courses need to develop curriculum for new courses with the pathways, which include aligning lessons to address multiple learning standards. The Year 1 curriculum review process helped us to see the discrepancies among pathways and the possible reasons that some seem to be further along than others. The blessing of CTE is that many of our staff come directly from industry that they are now teaching. The reality also is that our industry teaching professionals require targeted professional development related to curriculum and instruction, which must include guided practice on how to write curriculum. Professional development work must also include the creation of rigorous project-based learning activities for our students. Next slide, please. In conclusion, grades 6 through 12 CTE programs require financial resources to allow staff additional curriculum writing hours. Professional development plays an integral role in building educators' efficacy in writing curriculum and implementing new technologies. As our programs grow, financial resources must be made available so we can fill open teaching positions, as well as for sustaining vital technological equipment. Please move to the next slide. In summary, most pathways are still in need of the development of high quality, standard-based, and robust course curriculum. There are also several prospective courses that are still in the developmental stages. Those are computer science, barbering, and the 2 courses that are within our 2 new FACS pathways, careers in health and human services, and nutrition, health, and wellness. There are new regulations in place for the use of funds under the new Perkins 5 grant, which allows us to only support curriculum writing in those programs that are new or require overarching modifications. Therefore, career and technical education programs will require financial resources to further the much-needed curriculum writing work. Thank you. Please go to the next slide. Thank you very much for listening to our presentation. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you both very much for that excellent presentation. I think I like these presentations almost as much as Mrs. Bechtel. I mean, it's really a very deep understanding of what's happening in the schools in a curricular and instruction way, which is something we spend a lot of time up here talking about, how much money we have and how we're going to allocate resources. But it's when we get to hear from you all that we get to actually see how it impacts students. So I really appreciate it. Board colleagues, Dr. Chittor, you have a question?
Yes. Thank you again for a wonderful presentation. If anything we've learned from the whole COVID scenario, it's like how much we depend on computers and online resources. This whole working from home concept is new. And so I totally agree that we need to embed computing skills in all of these different pathways, because that will only enable you to keep working in case we ever go to this sort of an isolation period in the future. I think when I was looking at your pathways, the other thing that struck me is that, with all these diseases that are coming up, and healthcare is a booming field in a way. And if you look around, you'll see that there are lots of hospitals that have opened up new clinics everywhere. So there's more job situations that are being created. And so the physician assistant training and the nurse practitioner training and all of those things, which the health-related CTE programs will lead into. I would like to find out how we can tap into our community partners who would be future employers for our students, and how can we build that bridge and build those ties. In one of the reports, I also saw that you were looking for a DINA map. There should be something that we could find resources with so many clinics around, that we could even find somebody to donate some of these older equipment, because people are moving on to the latest and greatest, and there are things out there that we could use to train our students. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
So I would like to respond. So yes, you are absolutely correct. And we consider our certified nursing assistant program a gateway to the medical field. We have students that are very much interested in tapping into other fields that are related into medicine. And we know that this is their opportunity to gain a certification directly out of high school, so that they can either continue in that field while they're in school, so that they can pay for the tuition that's related to that. So yes, we have very many partners in the medical field. We have Albany Med has reached out to us time and time again, and asked us, tell us their needs, and we want to fit students to that need. And we also have the ability of having that work-based learning connection. So all of our students go out to nursing homes so that they can work with actual patients and learn how to decide really where in the medical field they would like to continue. In terms of donation of equipment, we have not tapped into that as a respect to different partners, but right now we are thinking about what's going to happen when we go into the new building, when Brooklyn is no longer, and we're going into Albany High School proper, which I can't wait to experience. And we are very much a partner in terms of what equipment are there in our health science lab, and we've been assured that what we need will be required. So at this present moment, I believe that we are okay with equipment. However, we do want to branch out. My health science coordinator, she has a lot of partnerships within the community, and she wants to return to our EMT. Those of you who remember that we had EMT. She also wants to do an EKG technician. She has so many dreams and thoughts for us. So I'm excited that she's come on board. So you will see our health science department grow as the years continue. But yes, thank you so much. I hope I've answered all of your questions.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And some of these things, even though they may not be related to the clinic, there's also research positions that are open where people need those kind of skill sets. So there's lots of opportunities, especially in the capital region. You got Sage, you got Hudson Valley, you got Albany, Albany Med. So
We also have connections to Maria College. So a lot of our students go on and leave us and go straight into their nursing program. We have the articulation agreement with them, so they get at least 3 credits. So we do definitely have partners. We're always looking for more. 5 times a year, we have what's called a business alliance, where we bring in community partners to come in and hear what we're doing, and they make recommendations. And I would love any board members to show up for that next year. I'll invite every single one of you. Some of you have been to it, and you get to see the various partners that we have, but we're always looking for more opportunities to meet others and to make connections in the community.
Another comment is, I'm excited about this whole barbering program that we started.
Ms. Smith.
I just want to say,
Hey, Dr. Shastur, I know where you're coming from, man. First of all, thank you both for this presentation. To me, this just is what gets my blood going, my energy going. I wondered, and I apologize if I missed this a little bit. My dog was just driving me nuts for a minute. I was surprised at the areas where faculty rated, underdeveloped, right? I think I was a little surprised at that. And I'm not sure if I exactly heard why that was, but it also occurred to me, just like you were speaking about the medical field, there's so much that one could do within that field, right? And so I'm wondering if that, it's rather broad. You could do a whole lot, and I can imagine that if faculty feels like, boy, we have this program, but we could be doing this and this and this, that it might feel like this is woefully underdeveloped, when in fact, they've got some strong components there, right? So I just wanted to kind of see if you could delve in a little bit as to why they're saying certain programs are underdeveloped.
To be honest, you want to, is that Nicole?
Could I weigh in?
Sure. Yes, Karen.
Thank you. I usually preface this presentation with reminding folks that there's the written curriculum and there is the in the classroom curriculum. And so when they're doing this rating, this is a way to get consistency. It's a way to measure yourself against our established rubric. It does not mean that there isn't quality instruction going on in that classroom. It means that it's not captured in a strong, robust written way. And Andrea can certainly add more, but I did want to mention that because that has come up every year, is that sometimes things are done in classrooms, but it's not captured. And until we capture it, that's when we get our consistency and we can improve and get better at the curriculum. So Andrea, if you'd like to add.
I'll just say, I do appreciate that. I really, for me, it wasn't about the quality, but I think that's an important point for us to understand and for the public to understand, indeed. I'm sorry.
So just to that point, I stated in my report that, our teachers come from industry. They know their craft. They are absolute professionals and experts within their field. So when the instruction is sound and they're working, within the school setting, and please, everyone, please come and visit, you'll see the work that's happening, the high level and the high quality instruction is happening. However, they're not from a teaching background necessarily, so the actual mechanics and the work in the curriculum piece and writing it may not come across the way it would with other teachers who are trained, in that manner. But they definitely have the skill, and I will just give a shout out to our cosmetology program that, always gets top-notch students out in the field. So her work is phenomenal. It's just not captured right now in Rubicon. And I also want to say that they were really hard on themselves, I believe. When I went back through it, I'm like, it can't be this, as underdeveloped. But they really were saying that all aspects of the curriculum are not there as it is written in Rubicon. That doesn't mean that they're not doing it, but it's not in Rubicon. So that's what we're going to be working for going forward.
Terrific. I do appreciate that very much. And I also want to say that I do receive the invitations to the Business Alliance sessions, and I wish to goodness that I was more of a morning person. And I'm going to work on that this year. I prefer to be up at night and all this stuff, but I do know that you send me those invitations, and I do apologize that I haven't made it there yet, but I'm looking forward to it this year.
Thank you.
Board colleagues, any other questions on this? Mr. Elmaniawi.
Thank you for the presentation. I love these, and I actually feel like I've been missing them because we haven't been having them as often. But this is all kind of future work, I feel. Everything that you guys are touching on are things that my son actually mentions to me all the time about coding camp, for example, and and all these robotics and etc. I would like to point out that barbering is brand new, so clearly it would be underdeveloped. I mean, we haven't had any classes in barbering yet, and I know we passed. I know the cosmetology has probably been around for a while, but we also just added a few classes. So I think this is probably a little bit on the harder side of judging ourselves, but it's good to have good criticism. But I appreciate the presentation, and I look forward to actually coming and seeing some of this. I would love to get an invite. Send it my way.
So Member Elmaniawi, and Ms. Marquez, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but what we have approved is Barbering 2. And so we have Barbering 2, which is what was recently approved. And this year we did have Barbering 1,
Correct.
which is why we needed to approve the second component of that, because we have students that are matriculating from Barbering 1 into Barbering 2.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
It's been a while. It's been a while since we passed that, so thank you.
Ms. Mann.
Hi, I just wanted to, thank folks for the presentation. My brother graduated from Albany High School, and he graduated with the ability to barber, and he joined the Navy, and to this day, that is his side gig. So, certainly a Brooklyn is a very robust program. I appreciated the presentation and really looking forward to coming to visit again.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a question or a comment? I see my eyes scanning back and forth. Ms. Smith.
Just one more. I know you have a slew of partners, and I guess I was just interested in our partnership with some of the other colleges, and particularly Hudson Valley Community College. Some of their new rollouts in manufacturing and all those kinds of things. And I just wondered about the connections there.
So we currently have an articulation agreement with Hudson Valley for our automotive program. And then we also have some of our business classes receive credits through Hudson Valley. So we do have a strong connection with them. But yes, we are looking at the other programs that are opening there, such as advanced machining, and thinking about what that can look like for Albany, because that would be an excellent opportunity for our students. So yes, it's on my board. If you come into my office, you'll see my big whiteboard, and it's sitting right there. But I'm also cautious, I want to shore up the programs that we currently have. I want to get them to a good space before we now, I'm feeling like when I first arrived, it was 3, now we're at 11. And it's like, we have to kind of slow down and shore up what we have and then expand. But definitely it's on my wish board.
And pre-engineering has gone to visit Hudson Valley to look at their technologies that they have available for students, so we can grow our program as well.
And just one follow-up question, if I might. Is there a correlation between the sooner a youngster starts down a pathway, say 9th grade, the more likely it is that they will end up with in a path and receive certification? I mean, I was just kind of wondering, like, is this how the CTE motivates youngsters, to really stay focused and and to actually continue down that pathway?
So what we're starting to realize is that it's not ninth grade, but actually at the middle school level that we need to start having these conversations. We are currently completing our SEP, and one of the things that we did realize is that in order for kids to know what's out there, they need to hear it over and over again and at a younger age. So our goal is to go down into the middle school and to talk about these programs. By the time they get to their 8th grade conference with their school counselor, they'll be well versed in what we offer, and then they can choose it sooner. The earlier, the better.
And I absolutely agree, and that was what I was hoping you would say. I wonder then, is there still a great deal more to do in 6 to 8 and as well at the lower grades? And even though at this point, given our budget and some other things, are we able to still make some inroads in the lower grades? I mean, and I can see some of that, in some certain areas, but just wanted to get your take on it.
We can absolutely work together as partners. So Andrea and I have been partners in the work this year, and what we're seeing is our departments are coming together and speaking to each other in a 6 to 12 setting. So, for example, the high school FACS teachers have come into the middle school department meeting to talk about the program and presentations they recently gave in California. And high school pre-engineering has spoken to the middle school technology teachers to talk about their program and the skills that the high school students need. So that way the middle school teachers can embrace those skills at the middle levels so the students are more successful at the high school. So we're definitely seeing that work in common planning time and department meetings and professional development days where we're all together 6-12.
Hello, I have something. So a question I have is whether, because I was a beneficiary of the program that was the career explorations. So I'm wondering, along that line of personal professional development, are we looking to, and I know there's not enough individuals to go around, but some kind of mentorship or externship opportunities for the students, like you mentioned earlier on in the programs also?
So we still have career explorations, which is actually open to any student at Albany High School. It's not limited to CTE students. So any student who decides that they want to, shadow in a particular career field, Ms. Lindsay, who's our work-based learning coordinator, will help facilitate that when the student joins the class and get them those hours in the field of their choice. So I just wanted to put that aside, that it's open to every student. In terms of mentorships, and even apprenticeships, we have developed connections with the industry. And so students can leave our programs and move right into apprenticeships in certain areas, especially like in areas like construction. Mentorship will come when the business partners, they come out and they speak with students. We have several opportunities for them to push right into classrooms and speak to the students who are about to go out. And then there are opportunities for those students to visit those sites. Do we have something right now which that connects students to particular fields on their own outside of the career explorations? No, but I will write that down for Lindsay for us to think about what that mentorship would look like. And how we would be able to make that happen. But in terms of our students having access to people in career fields, we make it a point to have people come in and for our students to go out and see places of employment that they would be interested in. Did I answer your question?
Ms. Marquez,
yes.
What areas do we have career explorations in right now?
And as I stated, anything. So if a student takes CEIP, which is the name of the course, and they decided that they wanted to be a second grade teacher, Ms. Simmons would provide that opportunity. She would seek out elementary school teachers who would, and that student would go and visit and shadow in that classroom over a certain amount of hours. It's 54 hours. A student picks where they want to be, whether it's in accounting, whether it's, I don't know, a bus driver, whatever it is that they want to do, it is her job to find a partner for that student to have that experience. That's the
Oh,
career
wow. Okay,
explorations.
that's a really different model than I remember, because it used to be more like thematic and in certain areas in my recollection years ago. So Mrs. Adams, I know she's already reading my mind, because you guys, probably everybody has heard my spiel on this. I'm wondering if this would fall under your area or someplace else, but we have on the board, particularly my voice, has for a long time wanted to have a pre-education program, because my ultimate goal is to see our students become our teachers. I think that is our best route to diversifying our workforce and making sure that we have a strong workforce here in Albany. And I'm wondering where that falls in your planning, or if it's not on your plate, somebody else.
No, Human Services is actually that program. So we made it an umbrella term so that we wouldn't just focus on, years back it was early childhood, but then we found that some students were not interested in that. So we made it the broad term Human Services, and then it falls on, that's elementary education, that's social work, that's psychology, wherever the student is interested in, it falls within that setting. So our careers in health and human services, that introductory course talks about education. So we're hoping that, and in fact, when I submitted it to the state, I wanted to be human services in education, but I was cautious in the sense that I didn't want students to say, well, I don't want to be in education, therefore I won't do human services. So I kept it that umbrella term.
Thank you very much. That's helpful. I know that we have big dreams about making that a very formal and clear process for our students to be able to go from your program to secondary education or higher education, and then ultimately back to teaching. And we will keep looking forward to that.
Definitely part of the work.
Anyone else for these two wonderful leaders, or are we ready to move on? Oh, Mrs. Adams, you've
No, I was just getting ready to introduce the ENL.
So board colleagues, are we safe to move on? All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Marquez and Ms. Lindeman. We really appreciate your being here tonight.
I did want to mention before we brought the ENL folks up that the teachers really are hard on themselves when they go through this process. It's sort of a deliberate thing, though, because this whole year is a planning process. You come out at the end of the year with a clear plan of what it is and a roadmap for what comes next. So we set the stage for that. It's a really, it's a wonderful experience for folks, because they don't, I encourage them to not go into it with the idea that they can't be honest about what it is, so that, because they know this ends in a presentation. I try to set the stage for them to come out with, this is what it is, and this is what we're going to do to improve and make it better and empower our teachers in that process. So it is a powerful process. And thank you very much, Nicole and Andrea, for your wonderful presentation. And now we'll go to the second presentation, which is a look at another complex area, which is English as a new language. We have tonight to give that presentation Mr. Tom Giglio and Miss Jody Cozy and Miss Rachel Stead, and they will probably introduce themselves as they begin.
Great. Thank you so much, Mrs. Bechtel. And good evening to Superintendent Adams, Madam President Savage, board members, cabinet, of course, our students and families and community members this evening. It's always a wonderful pleasure whenever we get a chance to share some of the work we're doing, especially since so much of it is about like that big 30,000 foot view. Well, what is the actual work looking like? What are we really analyzing when we get underneath the instructional hood of our vehicle? How's that machine working, so to speak? And while before we jump into the presentation, I did want to give a shout out to Karen for really helping navigate this 5-year. It seemed a little bit daunting, this 5-year cycle on what it's going to look like for us. And I think it actually has been a really rewarding practice for our department, and I'm really excited to share some of the findings with you guys as we move forward. As Karen mentioned, I do have my compañeras with me, Miss Jody Cozy, who is our ENL intake coordinator, who's really done a magnificent job kind of shifting a little bit since we really had a slowdown of new registrants into that quasi coaching model, really helping lead the work in this instructional examination for what our curricula is really like. And then, of course, Rachel Stead, who's the principal at AIC, with her vast expertise on language development and what it is to really kind of move us forward. Next slide, please. So we were able to comprise our team of about 12 E&L teachers, and you can see that we really tried to have a wide swath of who we really were representing so that we could really hear practitioner voice. And as I heard members from the board and Karen talk about, well, sometimes the teachers are really hard on themselves in terms of where we're at, but the tone was set by the curriculum council when we would have our, monthly or quarterly meetings about, this is really about an examination of where we can do a better job in building and supporting some of the gaps that we had. And so as we kind of ventured forward, hopefully you're going to hear a clear delineation between the standalone program, which is what we really examined on a deep dive for this exercise, versus our integrated or co-teach model. We the team felt that the integrated and co-teach model, that would be where an E&L teacher is, basically co-teaching with an algebra teacher or a content area teacher, that is fairly well articulated through the work that's being done in those disciplines. And we're in pretty good shape in terms of how that goes. We kind of did an initial needs assessment, and we knew that, the world of E&L, especially post CR 154, which rolled out about 5 years ago, where we went from 3 different levels to 5 more complex levels and what they mean, we really needed to do a better job supporting our E&L teachers in that standalone setting. Unfortunately, we did not get to meet once. We met twice before we had to go out due to the remote learning situation, but we did gather enough data to come forth with some findings and recommendations as we move forward. Next slide, please. So as always, context really matters for us. So E&L programming and guiding principles. So you've heard me throw around CR 154, and I want to give credit to our outstanding teachers. We really do have some of the best teachers, not just in the region, in the state. We had the state coordinated review that happened right before we went on remote learning, and they actually asked if they would be allowed to videotape some of our E&L teachers delivering some of that great instruction to use as best practice on State Ed's website for how we're doing co-teaching. So I always want to start with a strength-based model that we really do have some amazing teachers working with our children every day. And with that are some guiding principles that we're going to get into a little bit in terms of what it looks like for us with this cycle review. Blueprint for L success, and I think you guys should have access to the more comprehensive report that we prepared for you. We put in there some, as always, there's lots of acronyms in our world, so we've tried to put some definitions there for you. So what are these things that are taking place that we're naming? What are some of the key principles for L instruction? And then something that I'm really excited about, which is how do we move from theoretical practice, shifting into how we're really truly having children internalize different modalities, reading, writing, speaking, and listening, especially those output modalities, because it's all about student outcomes. We can feel good about things, we can feel good about having some things in place, but if we're not moving the needle and if we're not having an impact on student outcomes, then we need to continue to fill some of those gaps in our curriculum map moving forward. Next slide, please. So starting, and we took a look at the whole gamut between K-12, starting with K-5. And, these charts are very similar to what my colleagues had to do with Nicole and Andrea previously in terms of teachers really taking a look as a team on where we're at. And it's really about the next gen standards. And a common theme that we really are working on is exposing all L's regardless of where they fall on that language continuum with the new 5 levels, that they are being exposed to that rigorous grade level standard. This is some of the hardest work that our educators do every day with our kids. It's providing a pathway for those kids to be able to experience, wrestle with, internalize, and start to master what that grade level expectation is. Again, This is through the lens of what our standalone program would be based on where the teachers kind of like graded ourselves. And we were somewhat in the developing with rigorous and relevant, which has been a theme for us moving forward across the district. Also developing high quality. And then as you move to the right of our graph and you're looking at assessment and then high expectations for all, there was a bit of a gap with when we're pulling kids into our standalone program, having them have access to that grade level standard. And I think the old model pre CR 154 was, we want to, have kids do more social language skills, air quotes, softer instructional skills, having kids feeling good. And of course, we want our kids to feel good and be successful, but we kind of have to be those warm demanders, right? We want kids having their confidence, but we have to be able to scaffold up our instruction to that grade level standard instead of just having kids be compliant as our goal for that standalone program moving forward. Next slide, please. Moving into 6-8. And again, we have, for our NISA that's the annual state exam that takes place, and it really measures how our children are doing with those 4 modalities I mentioned before: reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Unfortunately, due to this unprecedented pandemic, the state decided to not even try and do a NISA for this year. It usually takes place in the late spring. We're not sure what's going to happen for us for next year. But one of the things we know is that we have experts, meaning our ENL teachers, and we need to continue to develop based on, we know what past NISA expectations were for us moving forward. So again, as we take a look at our middle level program, shifting with rigorous and relevant, which was a goal of ours in our district, continues to be high quality instructional practice. But as the research says, you can have outstanding instructional implementation and practice, but if your curriculum isn't well defined and clearly articulated, that's what's really going to keep our kids from having better outcomes. And I think that's one of those things that we had to kind of take an honest look at where we're at. Again, the teachers are working really hard, and since post CR 154, they've really done a great job a la carte, kind of customizing to the best of their ability across our 19 buildings what that standalone would look like. Now we know that our charge, and I'll get to my summaries in a little bit, is to really unify what that looks like for us. Some other things that are starting to happen as well is we're going to be focusing on making sure that our middle level ENL program looks the same for all kids. And part of that is going to be reallocating and being smarter with our staffing. By example, moving to a sheltered program as well at Myers with 3 ENL teachers for this upcoming school year, just like we kind of are doing for Hackett. So there's kind of, curriculum doesn't stand on itself. There are some other parts to it, but the research is clear. We need to do a better job with those high expectations in our middle level for our L's with a standalone program. Next slide, please. This slide should jump right out at us, and it sure does, right? I don't know if I've ever seen a slide that's all red, right? This would be our 9 through 12 standalone ENL program. And again, since we've shifted away from the antiquated 3 levels of ESL and we've moved now to the 5 levels of ENL, it's really been unfortunately, it's been a burden that we've thrust upon our teachers to come up with what does your standalone look like? We've really focused for the past few years on clearly defining and articulating what that content area integrated co-teach would look like. And that's where the majority of our professional development in my department and across the district. And shout out to my fellow supervisors in the other disciplines for really being inclusive, and also for the building principals for being very purposeful with making sure that, in the high school, if we have a science ENL teacher, she is partnered with the science teacher for years, and she gets to become a deeper expert in the content of science. That's great. Now the data from the team, from hearing from our 12 teachers on our subcommittee, is we really need to continue the work to align it towards proficiency in that standalone program for us. They did a great job with the old model. Now we really need to roll up our sleeves and do some extensive curriculum writing, especially as evidenced in Rubicon moving forward. So that's what this screen kind of like screamed out to me was, okay, this is where we're going to really have to narrow our focus. And towards the end of our presentation, hopefully we're going to have some well-articulated action steps for us moving forward with this. Next slide, please. Rachel, did you want to talk about AIC?
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Tom. Good evening, everyone. The next two slides talk a little bit about some of the curriculum work that has been done at Albany International Center. So we do have a curriculum that is referred to as Bridges, not to be confused with what I understand is a resource at the elementary level, a math Bridges, I think, because we had talked about that. But at AIC, the Bridges curriculum is kind of unique because it is something that is designed to meet the needs of SIFE students who are developing literacy in their native language. So the students who go into this particular course are assessed with their their literacy level in their native language is assessed, and if they have developing skills, literacy skills in their native language, then they are placed in this class. So this curriculum was developed by a group at CUNY who has a contract with the state education department. And so it is state approved, and it is something that we adopted shortly after our opening in September 2017. We continued to have coaching support from CUNY that was provided to us free of charge. Also free professional development workshops that teachers could attend. But essentially it is prepackaged and it comes to us already mapped. So the work of mapping this particular course wasn't as, it didn't take as long as some of the other courses. So if we can just look at the next slide, please. So, oh wait, I'm sorry. So that's, so that curriculum is more definitively mapped. Then the other curriculum or curriculum map that we looked at AIC is our Entering and Emerging standalone curriculum. And you can see that we're kind of in the middle here. We do have some green, we have a lot of yellow and a little less red, which is good news. I'll also note, though, that one of the goals of the SEP plan of AIC this year was to map 25% of our courses. And so this was one of the courses that was chosen to be mapped. And so you can see the results of this work here. The work was impacted by the closure, obviously, but it will continue because the beauty of a curriculum map is that it is a living and breathing document. And so we're always, going back into it and looking at it, adding resources to it. And that's the beauty of it. But the feedback that we got on this map certainly was that the academic language and the vocabulary instruction needs to be expanded and really clearly articulated into, the different kinds of words. Are they tier 1 words, tier 2 words, etc. We also had some feedback on adding engaging learning experiences and authentic performance tasks. And again, that's a really important area for us to continue to develop in this map. And one thing that you should understand about the maps is when you look at them, they kind of progress in certain phases. So I think that part of the map just wasn't wasn't something that the teachers had gotten to yet. But certainly, as Mrs. Bechdahl said previously, we see a lot of that in the classroom, but it is not always articulated in the map. And then finally, it is grounded in diversity as the target audience is ENL students. And even within our ENL population, we have a great, a great diversity there because we have students who are SIFE students. We have students who, are students with disabilities. We have students who are highly literate in their native language. We have students who, who may not read at all in their native language. And so there is a great diversity within that subgroup. And that is something that we know that we need to explicitly note in the curriculum going forward. And I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Gilio. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mrs. Stead. So as we kind of are coming down the home stretch here with some summary findings for us. So as we mentioned before, we do have some sporadic areas of teacher-created standalone curriculum that exist. Overall, we need to develop more of a robust and complete detailed standalone curriculum, and it needs to be fully developed and needs to be fully accessible to our teachers, and it needs to really have to be clearly placed and accessible for them moving forward. And what does that mean for us for a fully articulated, robust, standalone ENL program, curriculum? The next generation standards, it has to be aligned, and that, again, I can't stress how much of how hard of a job it is to do that, but that's the absolute work that we must do to scaffold up to that grade level standard. Updated bilingual progressions, detailing on what the expectation is, kind of building off of the work that's being done in the co-teach, using the NISA targets of measurement. And again, that's with those 4 modalities that I've talked about. And the genesis really was the blueprint for ELS since CR 154 was updated back in 2015. Next slide, please. So phase 2. So that was kind of like theoretical stuff. But what does it really mean? What are our action steps that we need to do? So we need to identify maps that need to be created in Rubicon, assemble a team of curriculum writers, and they have to be normed and supported with what does it look like to write curriculum. Coordinate with our RBURN, which has been fantastic, our regional support network, bilingual support network. They have been wonderful. Sandy Strock in particular has really done a phenomenal job in supporting us over the past couple of years with this. So that focus on that rigorous curriculum design, and as always, through culturally and linguistically diverse and asset-minded lens. Provide release time for teachers to work collaboratively. Evaluate June of 21 to ensure the maps are completed and cohesive, and then plan for phase 3 with that 5-year curriculum cycle that all the departments are going through. And we can take any questions that you may have now.
Thank you very much for your presentation. It's always a very complicated one when we hear about ENL because the regulations are complicated, the multiplicity of the way we handle our ENL students are complicated, the different life experiences that they have that brought them to this place where they are and ENL students are complicated. It's a very complex area. So we always appreciate you breaking it down for us and helping us understand. Board colleagues, who has a question? That cannot be. This has never happened before in the history of board members. Oh, Mr. Almanyawi, thank you.
It's more of an understanding of this issue being so difficult. I mean, I've repeatedly heard how many different languages our district has. So just to get the translation services for those students of different levels of knowledge of our language and their own language, I can't even begin to imagine how difficult that is. So thank you for the work you do. I'm still looking at the presentation and still formulating some thoughts, so I'm going to pass the mic to whoever's next.
Board colleagues, another question? Dr.
So my question is, I mean, again, it's a very complicated situation, but what I really wanted to ask was, how does this whole COVID online thing function with the ENL students? Because you're trying to teach them concept, but it's also the online thing, and it's a challenge over a challenge over a challenge. So
yes, well, I think it's a great point, and so a few things. So from there's an instructional challenge and then there's a logistical challenge. So huge shout out to Mr. Baker, the tech department, Ron Lesko's department, and we really kind of galvanized as a district when we realized we were going to have to do remote learning. And we really, equity means giving different folks different things at different points in time that they might need. So without hesitation, Kent's office, we coordinated a separate ENL pickup for the Chromebooks. We had interpreters there. We had volunteer teachers come. I think we were there for 3 days. And then we also did another round of dropping off the technology to, we did this also to a certain extent with typical students, but I think yes, if you take a look at it, like, okay, you have 24 hours notice to go remote learning. I think the fact that our district really, walks the walk, so to speak, when it comes to like making sure that everyone has access moving forward. So there's that logistical challenge. And then I would say that from an instructional lens, what is a challenge for a typical student is magnified for our English language learners, and I think we've learned, right? So one of the things we can do is we know that we can always get better from day to day and week to week. And I think through some great leadership from our building principals and again, my colleagues in other departments really wrapping their arms around the different learners that we have in the district to try and meet their needs and make sure that they have access to everything. It really, I think it's kind of revealed, like adversity doesn't build character, it kind of reveals it. And it's really exciting. While I know it's been stressful for the kids and families, but I think it's really revealed that we have great vision for how we can continue to improve our practice for better outcomes for kids. So I think one way to look at it is a glass half full kind of thing. Like, wow, we learned a lot about ourselves with this. Now we can actually catch our breath a little bit over the summer in terms of what the fall may or may not look like. And who knows, maybe we even learned some great art. There are things that we could be doing remotely all along that maybe we didn't do before. We were kind of forced to do them. So it's been quite a journey for us, to your point.
Do we have quantitative information about whether our ENL students participated in distance learning at lower rates, higher rates, about the same as their English-speaking counterparts?
I have off top, there's just anecdotal stuff. I think initially when the first month or so, when we went remote, we made sure to see like of all of our L's, like who has not responded or like logged into a Google Meet at all, who has done it sporadically, who's coming all the time. I apologize, I don't have that with me right now. I could certainly follow up with you. What I can say as a general trend, anecdotally speaking, is it kind of tailed off a little bit as time went on, but I think that happened with some of our typical students as well. So I'd hesitate to give you a number right now off the top of my head, but I could certainly follow up.
I was just curious about whether it was, whether we thought was, I would expect, because that would be my expectation, that extra level of complexity for them would mean that we'd have less connectivity. But I also know that those kids really need their teachers and they recognize the value of having a teacher that they can connect to. So I was just curious how that played out in reality.
Well, I can tell you that the month of March, our language line services quadrupled in terms of usage. So there was a lot of communication happening in March between the different schools and parents, going back and forth around logistics and things of that line. So I think that's one thing that I was kind of just looking at earlier today for another project, but that's a sign that there was some communication and connection. And I do know that we worked with the PPS team to make sure that we're doing student outreach to make sure that if we're not hearing from kids, we want to go find out what's happening. Of course, it's a challenge. When we were still before phase one, we couldn't even really have that much contact. But also, it's funny how things are connected. Like our food program was so dynamic and really was just amazing to watch it evolve to really meet the needs of all our kids. But it's amazing what happens when you're finding out how you can better support folks with some food insecurities in terms of making sure that they come to the site or go to their house. But you find out, that's an L student. They haven't logged in their Google Meet in a couple of weeks. Can you find out like what's going on? And so we were able to do some of that social emotional findings to how we can support the kids a little bit better remotely as well.
Board colleagues, anyone else? Mr. El-Minyawi has another question. Anybody else have a first question before we pass it back to him? Mr. El-Minyawi?
I don't think I saw this, but how are we tracking ENL student progress? And how are we kind of roping in ENL student parents into the process?
So in terms of how are we marking their academic progress typically?
Well, their progress towards learning English in general, yeah.
Okay. That happens annually through the NYSESLAT. And again, one of the challenges is there was no NYSA slot this year. So the state said that they're going to actually freeze all of the students' levels for a year moving forward. However, we do know, as I said before, like I'm really excited about some of the work we're doing at the high school in particular. We don't want to wait for next year's NYSA slot, right? So one of the tasks that we're going to be doing, and I don't want to let the cat out of the bag too soon, but I'm just so excited about it, is we're actually going to be creating like a NYSA slot mock benchmark for mid-year for next year to find out how our kids are tracking. But if your question was like pre-virus, how do we track kids? It's typically done through how they're doing with their content classes with that in that integrated setting. But as far as how they're moving on that continuum of the 5 levels of language proficiency through reading, writing, speaking, listening, that's primarily done through the NYSA slot exam, which takes place in the spring.
Can you, what's that acronym?
The NYSA slot assessment. It's the New York State English as a second language assessment test. I think I might need Rachel or Jody to help me with that if I got that right. And that's not to be confused with the NYSA TEL, which is what Jody Cozy really focuses on at when students and families register. And that's the screener. They fill out a home language questionnaire, the HLQ. And if they indicate on a few questions that there may be another language spoken at home, that triggers a soft kind of interview that Jody would be doing with them in their language of preference. And then that could trigger a more formal screening. And that's how we actually get to identify English language learners in our district.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Smith?
So, Mr. Giglio and Ms. Stade, I don't have any questions. I really just want to thank you very much for your work as always. And I really appreciate the detail in the summary report there. I think that's very helpful. And I would encourage my colleagues to check out the blueprint for ELL as well. I don't think it's linked there per se, but it's you just Google it, it'll come up. But I want to just say thank you very much. This is quite detailed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again for being here with us. We really appreciate you all the work that you do every day. And we look forward to seeing how this will roll next year when we know that there's some role shifting that's going to be happening. And it will be very interesting. I know that many of us over the years have been curious to see how we could get the dual language program to be as tightly integrated as possible into what we're doing for our English language learners. And so having Mrs. Stead moving from AIC to DCS will be a really great opportunity to see that all knit together. It'll be really terrific. So we're looking forward to that. Vicki, go ahead.
Ms. Savage, I'm sorry. Okay, I said I didn't have one, but I did want to just follow up. I think the last time you came before the board, you did make mention of the mentors that are connected to ELL students. And so I wanted to just kind of follow up and see how robust that has continued to be for youngsters during this period.
Yes, I'm already, thank you so much, Ms. Smith, for asking that. I'm already excited for my program update in the fall. Hopefully it'll be in person, I don't know, but that's been just, talking about using, what is our community? It's an asset, right? Our community is an asset for us. When we talk about like root causes for outcomes, it's an absolute asset for us. And I think language is important, and I think action steps are important. So to answer your question, Rachel has really done an amazing job mobilizing our friends at RISE, USCRI, and the Refugee Roundtable, which we're an active member of. We have about 250 people just alone on that listserv. And they're wonderful folks. Some of them are still working, some of them are retired. They have different expertise, matching them up with whatever the needs are for the children at AIC. And I'm super excited that we're going to be doing somewhat of that model at Albany High for our L's that are over at Albany High, with some preliminary work that's being done in some of our planning for the Albany High plan, to really use the expertise of our community to formalize it and actually have them coming into like an ENL hub in Albany High next year. So I don't want to overstep my boundaries and talk about Ms. Comerford's plan, but I'm really excited about how we can continue to leverage the community as just a wonderful asset for us.
Great. Looking forward to that.
Mrs. Stead, did you have something you wanted to add?
I just wanted to add to what Mr. Giglio was speaking about. USCRI, which, as you know, is a really important partner of the district, they started a new mentoring program this year called a Making a Connection program. And so they do have, and this is for students between the ages of 15 and young adults between the ages of 15 and 24. And so they are paired up with a mentor to help them with their schoolwork, to help them with their career aspirations, like with everything really that they need help with. But this speaks to one of the questions I think that came up before. I did receive an email from the coordinator of that mentor program saying that she has, mentees in a few different districts, but that the Albany students she works with seem to be really prepared for Google Classroom, and actually we're in the position of being able to help some of the students in other districts. So I just wanted to share that because that was a real positive that came out of this closure.
Yes, every student in the district is definitely prepared for Google Classroom at this point, for sure. And teacher, right? I mean, it's an amazing transition for our faculty to have turned on a dime on that. Amazing. Okay, I think that will draw this item to a close. Thank you once again for being with us. We always appreciate hearing from you. Have a good evening, you all. And now we have to turn to a couple of routine matters. We have time on the agenda for board committee reports. Do we have any committee reports tonight?
Ms. Savage, Vicki here. The committee did meet earlier this week. It was Tuesday. We had a rather robust meeting, but I wanted to just say that we can. In short, we're continuing to look at the progress of the high school. It's various phases that we're going into, making sure that we are still on target budget-wise. We do speak about the North Albany developments there, and we also are looking at the 5-year capital plan. And some of the work, as you all know, has started on the roofs of the Sunshine School and Edmund O'Neill, those being two important structures to make sure they don't deteriorate. And so we're continuing to do that. We are also continuing to monitor our MWBE work to recruit and retain folks in the city of Albany to work on our projects. We'll be looking at that data sometime later in the fall. But as well, we will be looking at our sort of reinvigorated efforts to do more work in that area. We don't have another meeting date set up as of yet, but we will keep the public apprised shortly and have a schedule that will be laid out for the coming year.
So I'll just take a minute to talk about government relations. We have not met in some time. As you know, the district has been in a bit, we've done a lot of government relating without a meeting since we've written several letters to the governor recently and done some other lobbying around all of the issues having to do with the budget vote, but we have not had a formal meeting. But one thing that is coming up, which we need to attend to or decide not to attend to, is the NYSBA resolutions deadline is in July. So last year we, for the first time, submitted a resolution and we were successful in having it passed. I don't really feel like it got us very much. I didn't see a lot of action on that item, which had to do with improving transportation opportunities for our children. But we did get the resolution passed. So that's something I would like to just dig into a little bit more about. If NYSBA passes a resolution, what does it mean really in terms of their willingness and commitment? And whether we might need to choose resolutions if we want to submit one that are more tailor-made for their interest areas. So it's just something to think about. And that deadline is coming up in July. And so if anyone has a thought about something they think would be a resolution that they might want to consider, we should really talk about it soon. Basically the resolutions that they pass fall into two categories: either bylaws amendments for their own governance or items that they plan to lobby for. And as you all know, I will be in the resolutions committee this year, which meets at the beginning of August. So I'll have some influence through that mechanism. But whether we decide to submit a resolution or not is an open question in my mind.
Ms. President?
Yeah, Ms.
Just a question. Do you know how, do you think that deadline will be hard and fast in July?
I think so, yes. They just sent it out recently.
They did? Okay. I was just trying to figure out, we normally have our retreats and things and just wondered if we had an opportunity to buy some time, but okay.
Yeah, the resolutions committee meets August 10th. So I think they need the resolutions in by the mid to end of July in order to prepare them for the resolutions committee. Everything has lead time.
Well, second question, and again, maybe this is something we can deal with, but do we have some resolutions that we think from last year that we want to, move?
Not that I'm aware of. I think that the ones that we wanted to pass passed, and the ones that we wanted to not pass. Actually, there was one, come to think of it. Thank you, Vicki, for that suggestion. Remember that they had a resolution that we worked against, and we were successful in defeating it, which had to do with having public school boards of education be responsible for evaluating private schools within their borders. We could propose the resolution to turn the language around and have NYSBA, in fact, lobby for what we believe it to be the right approach, which is that the state education department should be responsible for that work instead of local school boards. So that's a possibility. All right, that was my pseudo committee report, perhaps sliding into other business. Anyone else have a committee report? Okay, then technically we have on the agenda an opportunity for items of other business for board members. Anything for the good of the order? If not, then I get to say the good words. Looking for a motion to adjourn. Motion by Ms. Smith, second by Ms. Mann. All in favor of adjourning? That is unanimous. Thank you all. I will see you in 2 weeks, if not sooner.